Hi, everybody. My name is Allan Wright, and I'm the president of Zephyr Conferences. And we run 5 conferences in the food, wine, and beer industries, including 3 media conferences. And today, in our 9th video in our weekly series for small business marketing for the food, wine, and beer industries, we are going to talk about influencer marketing. That's a hot topic and has been for a number of years. And we have a hot influencer with us. Toni Dash of Boulder Locavore has been food blogging for 11 years, so has a lot of experience in this. She also is on our advisory board for the International Food Blogger Conference. And in my experience is well connected to what's going on in the food blogging world, which is very relatable also to the beer and wine industries as well. So Toni, thank you for taking some time and joining us.
You bet. Thanks for having me.
So let's start off right away and ask you, how would you define influencers?
I would say an influencer is someone who has a point of view and has developed a following that resonates with that point of view. And so the influencer part, of course, is when they've found their following or audience and they have certain products that they like or things that they do, their audience is organically inspired to try the same things and follow what they're doing.
And so what is it then that makes an influencer influential? Is it the size of his or her audience? Is it the interactivity they have? Is it the fact that they can sell products?
Well, I think it can have a couple definitions. First, I think the whole idea of influencer marketing came about because the person, the influencer, the blogger, YouTuber, whatever they are, they just have a natural way to inspire people to do what they're doing. And so I think the influence comes in when you pair them with a product or a service that a brand might be wanting to get into their followers' hands. And I don't know that the size of audience might matter to certain brands, or it might not. I think to me, it's more the engagement and how dedicated that audience is.
Yeah, and so in some ways, is it correct then to say that influencers are credible because they're not really out there just to do the marketing, they're out there to talk to their communities?
I think so. I think the most successful, so if you're thinking from a brand perspective, if I was a brand and I wanted to hire somebody to share my product with an audience, I would really be looking for somebody that had a dedicated following, that had an organic voice. So they're not just selling products over and over and over, that they have a natural point of view that the product aligns with. And so they have a solid base and they have a trust base with their following.
Which means don't go to Kim Kardashian to sell your chocolate company's chocolates if you're a small regional producer, but instead go to that food blogger who has an expertise in that subject.
Right. I think the expertise is what's important. You know, in the recent years of influencer marketing, micro influencers have been really a big thing. So people with smaller audiences, but dedicated audiences and engaged audiences. And so I think depending on a brand's goal, I think there are different tiers of influencers you could work with to get your message across. And that really depends on what your campaign goals would be.
Right. And so tell us about the different methods that brands use to work with influencers. What are they actually asking influencers to do?
Well, that's probably a longer topic, but I think it can range from doing a blog post to feature a product, integrating a product into a recipe. You know, being a food blogger, that's something that I've done. Sharing certain kinds of content on social media. It can be making videos. It can be preparing content for the brand that actually is on the brand's website. I mean, the possibilities are pretty limitless. It just really depends on what the brand's goals are. And that's another thing that I was going to touch on. I think more importantly than how you work together. It's really key to figure out what you want out of a campaign. So what are the brand's goals? How would you define success? How would you measure success? And then kind of backing up from that to consider what would the method be that would allow you to get there. Does that make sense?
Yes. So in that conversation, the brand would potentially have some ideas, but you as an influencer might come back and say, here's what I think I could do that would better meet your goals.
Yeah.
And it might be sponsored posts on your site, sponsored social media posts, or it could be
Right.
other things as well.
Right. And for me personally, I've had that dialogue with brands. They might come to me and say, this is really what we want to do, and this is what we want to accomplish. And if I feel that I could offer them something that will meet their goals better than the method that they're talking about, I'm going to have that dialogue with them, because the goal really is for both of us to be successful. I would want to deliver to my audience something authentic that they'll resonate with and want to pursue. And the brand really benefits from that as well. And so the influencer knows what would be successful on their channels better than probably the brand would, because we're on the back end of all this. And the brand knows what they need to get out of it. And so really having that kind of dialogue, I find, meets at a place that's usually the most successful.
And then, so how, to begin that process, how do you prefer that brands contact you? Not just email versus phone, but that would be part of it, but also what are you looking for them to tell you or ask you or provide you?
To start.
Yes.
So I would say the more details they have, the better I can respond. So if they have a concept, if they have certain parameters, like we need this done in X period of time, this is our budget, these are our contractual terms that we need to have. The more specifics they can provide, the better I can respond with something that really gets down to business and helps both of us figure out if it's a relationship that would be the right next step. I think sometimes there's a little chicken and the egg around budget in particular. The brand would like the influencer to say, how much would I charge for this? And the influencer wants the brand to say, this is how much we have to spend. And somehow you have to get through that to really, just figure out if it's like dating. I mean, really, you just have to kind of figure out, is this going to be a match that's going to work for both of us?
And we could probably spend an entire session just on the money of how to figure that part out as well. But we won't do that.
Right.
But tell me this then, are you looking for an agreement, a written agreement, or does that not matter to you? Are you just happy if they outline details in an email?
So for me, again, I've been doing this for 11 years. So typically I always work with a contract, but that's usually secondary. So I find, the first step is really understanding the project, what the expectations are, what the deliverables are, what the requirements are. And that's usually done through email, figuring out, what do you need? This is what I can do. And generally I work either directly with brands or through a PR agency. And the next step is always summarizing that in a contract, so everybody is clear on the parameters of what's going to be delivered and how it will be delivered. And I think that's best for both sides, just because it's kind of a project guide, if nothing else.
Yeah. And so as a final question for you, Toni, the summary, big picture, we have a lot of brands out there. They come to our conferences and are looking to connect with food, wine, and beer bloggers, influencers, social media professionals. And they're doing that for a reason, because the old version of marketing, where you just push out your message in a one-way delivery, is sort of not that well received anymore, especially by the younger generation, right? And so how effective have you found influencer marketing to be from your side of the park? Or do you think your brands that you're working with and brands that are working with other influencers are happy with what they're getting?
I do. And that's a metric for me that measures my success for our partnerships. And so I ask that directly. Um, I think that you really just have to be clear and both on the same page before you even launch into a campaign to make sure that you both understand what each needs. So I think it is successful if people are both on the same page. Does that answer your question?
That does. That does.
Okay.
Thank you very much, Toni. And I want to just say for our audience that although Toni and I had a script of potential questions, most of the ones I asked her were not on the script. So she did an excellent job of interacting on the fly there. And we will provide Toni's contact information if you're interested in talking to a food blogger who's got good information on this. Next week, we will be summarizing and finalizing our 10-part series by sort of moving on from influencer marketing to talk specifically about influencer marketing at conferences. And we have not been doing a sales job yet for this whole 10-part series, but next week we will talk about why we think going to conferences is good for brands as a way to connect to influencers as well. So again, Toni, thank you. We appreciate your time.
Thank you.